Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Natalie. Today we're going to be talking about books I own and need to read. So I've only been collecting my current book collection for the past few years. Before that it was just a bunch of books I read when I was younger and wasn't really interested in anymore. So a few years ago I got rid of all these books, and since then I've been starting to collect young adult books that I'm interested in. I also don't very often buy books because I don't have a steady source of income. I usually only get books around my birthday or Christmas when I'm either gifted books by friends and family or I get gift cards to Barnes & Noble. So, you'd think then I'd probably have read all of my books. No. I read like half of the books I own. It's a problem because I just read books from my local library, which is good, support the libraries, but also then I buy books and I just don't read them. So today, I'm going to give you guys 5 books that I really want to read and kind of why I want to read them. So the first book on this list is Toward Zero by Agatha Christie. I love Agatha Christie's books. She's one of my favorite authors and is my favorite mystery author. I've been reading her books for the past 2 or 3 years and I love them so much. So I bought Toward Zero last summer and I haven't read it yet. I can't even use the excuse that, oh, I haven't been reading a lot of Agatha Christie or I'm not in the mood for mystery books, because over quarantine, I read like 12 of her books. But of course, did I read the one I owned? No! But I really want to read this one because it sounds really interesting. The premise is there are these 3 events that they seem random, but upon further inspection, they aren't. So the synopsis of this book is, what is the connection among a failed suicide attempt, a wrongful accusation of theft against a schoolgirl, and the romantic life of a famous tennis player? To the casual observer, apparently nothing. But when a house party gathers at Gull's Point, the seaside home of an elderly widow, earlier events come to a dramatic head. As Superintendent Battle discovered, it is all part of a carefully laid plan for murder. It sounds so interesting and so fascinating. I love Agatha Christie's books. I'm never able to figure out where she's going, and the way she's able to construct her plot with so many different threads and strings that you never know where she's going to end up. I love it, and I really think I'm going to enjoy this one. The second book on this list is Truthwitch by Dennard. Now, if I'm being honest, I don't know a lot about this book. I just think I'm really going to like it. So from what I know about this story, it follows these 2 girls who are thread sisters, and that's really all I know. It's just something about the concept of the story and the things I've heard about it, and it just sounds really interesting to me. I remember hearing about this book that there are different types of witches and they can control different things. Like, I think one of the main characters in this book can like know when people lie or like feel when people lie, so that sounds really interesting to me. Also, I really like the cover. This book follows these 2 characters who are thread sisters, and I think there's going to be a really strong family bond between the 2 of them. And who doesn't love reading about a good family bond? So, the synopsis of this one is, in the Witchlands, there are almost as many types of magic as there are ways to get in trouble, as 2 desperate young women know all too well. Sophia is a truth witch, able to discern truth from lie. It's a powerful magic that many would kill to have on their side, especially amongst the nobility in which Safi was born. So Safi must keep her gift hidden, lest she be used as a pawn in the struggle between empires. Zolt, a threadwitch, can see the invisible ties that bind and entangle the lives around her, but she cannot see the bonds that touch her own heart. Her likely friendship with Safi is taking her from life as an outcast to one of reckless adventure, where she is a cool, wary balance to Safia's hot-headed impulsiveness. Safia and Zolt just want to be free to live their own lives, but war is coming to the Witchlands. With the help of the cunning Prince Merrick, a wind witch and ship's captain, and the hindrance of a blood witch bent on revenge, the friends must fight emperors, princes, and mercenaries alike, who will stop at nothing to get their hands on a truth witch. So that just sounds really cool. I think the magic system in this book sounds like it's going to be fascinating. So I am really excited to pick this one up. Don't know a lot about it, but I'm really hopeful that I like it and that when I do read it and hopefully really enjoy it, I can just go through the rest of the series, especially because the 4th book in the series, which I don't know if that's the final book in the series, is being released, I think, early 2021. So I want to get to this one before that comes out. Next book on this list is Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerri Maniscalco. This is the Fairy Loot edition that came in their October box. I've only heard a lot of really great things about this book. So the main thing that intrigues me about this book that makes me want to read it so much is that in this book, basically this one character has to call on one of the demon princes of hell, and so the fairy loot box came with some interesting art with him, but particularly on the hardcover of the book, this. You just had to show me that and I was willing to read it. But that's not the only thing that interests me in this book. From people whose reviews I really trust, they said that this book is just something that like grips you and hooks you and makes you want to read it and not put it down. And also there's supposed to be some really great descriptions of Italian food in it that are just going to make you hungry. So I'm really excited to read this one. So, Kingdom of the Wicked is about Amelia and her twin sister, Victoria, have been inseparable all their lives. As stray witches who exist secretly among humans, they know the dangers of drawing attention and work at their family's renowned Sicilian restaurant, avoiding notice and persecution. But one night, Victoria doesn't come home, and it's not long before distraught Amelia discovers the body of her beloved twin, desecrated beyond belief. Devastated, Amelia vows to find her sister's killer and seek vengeance at any cost, even if it means calling upon a dark magic that has been long forbidden. Then Amelia meets Wrath, one of the wicked princes of hell she has been warned against since she was a child. Wrath claims to be on Amelia's side, tasked by his master with solving a series of murder on the island, of which Victoria is the last victim. But when it comes to the wicked, nothing is as it seems. So that just sounds really interesting to me. I think it's going to be a really fascinating story. I'm just beyond excited to read this, and honestly, this cover is just gorgeous. Everything I've heard about this just makes me want to pick it up immediately, and it's been really hard just for me to not read this and just devour it, but I've had other things I need to read because they're due at the library. So I am very excited to read this one. Fourth on this list is another one I have the Fairy Loot edition of, and that is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. This book is just stunning. I like this cover more than I like the original version, but we're not here to talk about book boxes. These Violent Delights. Basically what I know about it is it's set in 1920 Shanghai with two rival gangs, and it's like a Romeo and Juliet retelling. So I didn't really like Romeo and Juliet when I read it in school. I'm not a huge fan of Shakespeare, but I'm really excited to see kind of what a twist on someone who is Gen Z, because Chloe Gong is 21, I think, is going to do with this story. And I'm excited to read this. I think the atmosphere sounds really cool, kind of 1920s, murky, like, gangs and stuff like that. I like reading about gangs and, like, mafia and stuff like that, which sounds really morbid, but what can I say? I've also heard, like, nothing but good things about this book, and I think it would be interesting to see how the fantasy is integrated, and I think it's going to be really interesting. Young adult fantasy is one of my favorite genres, and I've seen from a lot of creators who read predominantly young adult fantasy that this book is just amazing and that it's really good. And I'm really excited. I think it's going to be really interesting. And I think it's really great that Chloe Gong, who's 21, was able to write and publish a novel at her age. I think it's really incredible, and I have a lot of respect for her. So, These Violent Delights. Here's the synopsis. The year is 1926, and Shanghai hums to the tune of debauchery. A blood feud between two gangs runs the street red, leaving the city in chaos. At the heart of it is 18-year-old Juliet Kai, a former flapper who has returned to assume her role as the proud heir of the Scarlet Gang, a network of criminals for above the law. Their only rivals in power are the White Flowers, who have fought against the Scarlets for generations. Behind every move is their heir, Roma Montagov, Juliet's first love and first betrayal. But when gangsters on both sides show signs of instability, culminating in clawing their own throats out, the people start to whisper of a contagion, a madness, of a monster in the shadows. As the deaths stack up, Juliet and Roma must set their guns and grudges aside and work together, for if they can't stop this mayhem, then there will be no city left for either to rule. So this just sounds really incredible. It sounds like it's going to be so interesting. And everyone I've seen reviewed this book is just losing their head over it. So it sounds like it's going to be really good. And it sounds right up my alley. YA fantasy with a bit of romance sprinkled in there, especially as enemies to lovers. I'm here for it. And the final book on this list is The Fountains of Silence by Ruta Sepetys. So one of my best friends got me this book for my birthday. And when I got it, I mean, obviously I'm excited to receive any books I love reading, but historical fiction, it used to be my thing a bit ago, and then I just read a lot of historical fiction, specifically World War II historical fiction, And I haven't really read a lot recently, but I was excited when I got this because I was like, oh, I can start getting back into historical fiction. But I thought it was going to be a bit before I was going to read this because this book is written by Rita Sepetys, and in 9th grade, the grade I'm in English class, at the beginning of the year, we read Salt to the Sea, which is also by Rita Sepetys. So I thought, oh, I probably won't run and read it right now. I'll probably want a bit of breaks between the two books. Yeah, now that I've read Salt to the Sea, finished about a week ago, I need this in my life. I think it's going to destroy me, and I am honestly prepared for it. I'm also excited to read it because the history class that I'm taking this year, which is specifically centered on European countries, I now know more about the time period this is set in than I ever have before. Because did I know anything about Spain and the dictators rule in Spain? No. But now I do. And so now I think I'll be able to have a greater appreciation and understanding of this book. And I am ready to be destroyed. When Salt to the Sea ended, I almost cried. I was just kind of sitting there on my couch So, I am ready to be wrecked beyond oblivion. The way Rita Sepetys writes her characters and strings her stories, it's just heartbreaking. And I spent most of Salt to the Sea just wanting to start crying. I expect that will happen here. And another thing I really like about her is her chapters are short. I don't know how good this is, but chapter. That's it. They're just a few pages. I love short chapters. They make you feel like you're accomplished. You can move through a book faster with short chapters. I feel like that's a trivial thing to say, but short chapters. Now, I do think this one will be a bit different from Salt to the Sea because it is longer and we're following less perspectives. In Salt to the Sea, we had 4 characters. In this one, we're only following 2. But I'm sure it's going to be fabulous anyway. I love history and I do like historical fiction. I just think I read too much of it at the time. I'm really excited to read historical fiction set in a time period that I'm just exploring and I'm just getting ready to learn more about, which is Spain in the 1950s, 60s, that kind of time period. So, The Fountains of Silence. Madrid, 1957. Under the oppressive dictatorship of General Francisco Franco, Spain is hiding a dark secret. Meanwhile, tourists and foreign businessmen flood into Spain under the welcoming promise of sunshine and wine. Among them is 18-year-old Daniel Matheson, the son of an oil tycoon, who arrives in Madrid with his parents hoping to connect with the country of his mother's birth through the lens of a camera. Photography and fate introduce him to Anna, whose family's interweaving obstacles reveal the lingering grasp of the Spanish Civil War, as well as chilling definitions of fortune and fear. Daniel's photographs leave him with uncomfortable questions amidst the shadows and dangers. He is backed into a corner of difficult decisions to protect those he loves. Lives and hearts collide, revealing an incredible dark side to the sunny Spanish city. This sounds very good. I'm excited to read this. I think it's going to be interesting because I don't know if we're going to get Anna's perspective in this. Maybe not, but I think it'll be really interesting seeing this perspective of someone who doesn't know what's happening in this country, coming through and uncovering all its secrets. I think that's always a really cool storyline when it's done, and I hope she'll complete it well. I've only read one Rita Sepetys book, and I just trust her wholeheartedly to be able to execute this masterfully, and it doesn't help that everything I've heard from either friends or other booktubers is just that this book is really good. So that's The Fountains of Silence. So those are 5 books I own that I most want to read. Let me know down below if any of those sound interesting to you, or if you've already read them and whether if you like them or like them. I think once I've read these 5 books, because hopefully I should be reading them within the next month or 2, I can make an updated version of this list with 5 more books I want to read, just to kind of constantly have pressure on me to read your physical TBR. Don't just get random books out of the library that you don't know anything about. But then I'll just buy random books that I don't know anything about them, so I don't know. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see what I do next with this channel, and give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!